Alright, so I have let the garden go a little bit with the weeding. Typically I like to weed like every now and then, like a little bit here, a little bit there. That way I don't feel so overwhelmed, but we've had a lot of rain this season and the weeds are getting a bit rambunctious. So I'm going to use my trusty Hori. Had this for 10 years and it's still going strong, still sharp. And I'm going to get in the beds with the Hori. And then on the outer areas of the garden where it's really more just wood chips, I'm going to use a hoe or I'm going to use my big rake. So let's get started. Just pulling off some tomatillo flowers here. This is a tiny, tiny little plant. So just pulling them off so that it can get big and bushy and produce more fruit. All right, that's the first pass. It's looking good. I'm gonna give it another pass through, see what more we can get done. Second pass is more for smaller things that I missed. Spreading some of this compost around. I think that's all I'm going to do for this bed, and I think that's all I'm gonna do. I'm here in my slightly neglected bean patch. I was growing Hutterite bush beans and red swan bush beans. They didn't do too well. However, the clay peas are doing great, and I would like to go ahead and clean the rest of this bed out so that I can grow some more peas and beans that are better suited to this environment and really take over this bed. Normally when I grow bush beans, they bush out and I don't really have to worry about weeding, but I don't know. I don't think those bush beans really liked it here. I think it might have gotten too hot. So I'm going to get my hoe out and hoe all of this grass out of here, and then soon, probably next week, grow out some new peas. Okay, so I've got my tomatoes staked out here. I just ran out of tomato cages. I have done the Florida weave method for a number of years, and I'm just not a fan. I'm not really a fan of even just pulling the jute twine out of the crop residue. I don't like it. It always gets out of control for me. So if I were growing tomatoes for profit, I would probably do that. And if I had those big super sturdy cages like More Than Farmers and them have, that would be great. But I have tomato cages, and some of them were used for the fruit trees to keep the deer off of them, and so I'm using these stakes. But I'm also using these clips that my mom gave me, and they just go around the tomato plant and the stake. I've not used these before. That's pretty easy. So I'm going to stake up the rest of these tomatoes, and that's me for the garden. It's going to be 95 today and it's already nearly noon and I am sweating. I still have to do my workout. So I'm going to get these staked up and move on. So I wanted to talk a little bit about my philosophy when it comes to planting and weeding and doing things around the garden and the yard. And this year I was really focusing on developing the skill of planetary planting. And I call it a skill because it is something that you have to use as a tool to work within your bioregion, your schedule, your resources, all of that. I've used a lot of different sources this year just because I'm just trying to develop a skill, and when I try to do that, I usually just go all in. So I have a lot of different resources that I'm using to help not just tell me when to plant or when to weed, but basically how the flow of gardening. One thing I've noticed, and I count this as a positive for planetary planting, has been my ability to basically let all other subsequential chores go. Like typically, before I started gardening this way, I would go into the garden and just do everything. It's, if I'm planting something, I'm also weeding and then mulching and then fertilizing, like I'm doing everything all at once. And that's just because the time that I have in the garden is just like, okay, it's time to do everything all at once. With gardening by like the moon or the planets, it's more compartmentalized, it's more organized, it's more relaxed for me. At the same time, more scheduled and more freeing. If I look and I've consulted all of my resources and I've decided that it's going to be a good day for fertilizing, say, well, I can devote the whole day to preparing for that or getting ready for that. I can devote the whole week. For some brews and things like that, that could be the case. So when I'm thinking about what to do, now I can say, okay, like with the moon, gardening by the moon, usually what I do is just break it all down as I'm looking at the future of the season. Say for instance, I know it's time to get started with fall gardening, and I know generally using the moon throughout the month when the best time will be to make soil, fertilize, to get seeds started, that sort of thing. And not I'm planting seedlings and making soil and fertilizing, weeding, all of that. It becomes like a cycle. Like it feels more cyclical, even though I've been gardening for years and years now, and it always does follow the same kind of cycle. Using this way it's just less painful for me. I'm doing a lot less, but also getting more accomplished as well. I'm making better use of my time. And I think for that alone, this method is definitely worth it. Some of the resources that I'm using, and you don't have to do it all like this. I have a tendency to really obsess over things. And so when I have all of these resources, I'm able to cross-reference. But I would say if you're gonna start out, I would say maybe pick 2 or 3 sources to get your information from, and then that way you can, it's not a lot of conflicting information, because some of these resources that I'm using, they're in different time zones or maybe different parts of the country sometimes. And with stuff like planetary planting, like, you know, Libra is for flowers, and Pisces is a good time to plant anything because it's a water sign. Things like that, well, you know, we're all on the same planet, so that's fine. But there are some planting days and harvesting days and weeding days that are just not, they're not going to be exact to your bioregion. So that's why I would say have a super hyper local as you can. The Old Farmer's Almanac is a really, really good resource for that sort of thing, because you can pinpoint down to your zip code. Speaking of, the Old Farmer's Almanac is a very good resource for just planning out my days and weeks and things like that. Like they have a best days to do pretty much anything. Cut your hair, trim your trees, landscaping, farming, gardening, lifestyle, all of that. When I was starting out, it was really good for, okay, I know on these days it'll be good to harvest. I also have a planner that has days to harvest and days to plant on it. And that's a good guide. How I usually go to plan my month or my week is I'll look at my planner and I'll see, you know, maybe it'll say, like it says here, July 13th, that was a good planting day. Well, I'll cross-reference that to the almanac and just generally see, okay, what can I fit into my schedule? Sometimes it's usually like 3 or 4 days in a row that are good planting days. And I have a kind of in my head reference of my next resource that I'll mention Planetary Planting by Louise Riot. And I'll know just from reading that, I just know generally what signs are considered good for, say, planting. Also, again, what can I fit in my schedule? So if I have no days on the days that it says in this planner, oh, it's good to plant on this day, well, if I don't have time, it won't get done. But that day will come up, or just generally speaking, when it's a good sign to plant, that's when I'll do it. Because again, it won't necessarily be true to my planner here. Even here it says harvest corn on a day that it doesn't have like a little harvest basket. So sometimes I just can't go by what my planner says. I go by also what the Old Farmer's Almanac says. And then zooming out for all of that, I have an eternal moon calendar on our refrigerator. This is a universal and eternal moon calendar for gardeners. I got it off Etsy. We just had the new moon, and this is the time when you can plant or dig. And then through the first quarter, full moon, last quarter, fairly simple. And so I can just see, and I have the moon phases in the planner. I have the moon phase on my watch, which I do use, actually, way more than I thought I would. I have the moon phase on my watch. I know the moon phases by the calendar. I can just go outside and see the moon. It becomes easier the longer you do it. And so you'll get into cycles. Eternal moon calendar, regular calendar, watch, planner, almanac, and then that's just for planning out days. Again, you don't have to use that many sources. That's me just always trying to familiarize myself with it and keep my mind on it so I don't just go back into my old habits. The Planetary Planting book by Louise Riot, she is the one who wrote Carrots Love Tomatoes, and I think Garlic Loves Roses, those books. It's a fantastic resource. I think it's still relevant. She has an index of plants. It's a huge index of plants and when the best time is to plant them. It's a lovely book. It became one of my favorite books just instantly. It's just so easy to read and so easy to reference just quickly if you want to know when the absolute best time is to plant, say, corn or tomatoes or anything like that, or even, like I said, some more exotic plants. I love it. I think it's a great book, and I think if you're a gardener or a homesteader or a farmer who's looking to get better results with just a little more knowledge and not necessarily a lot more work, I think you should give it a read. Just read it and see what happens. And then I also have my planter's clock, right? I actually do use that thing, again, like the moon phase on my watch. I use that moon phase on that clock way more than I thought I would. I use the little planting guide at the bottom way more than I thought I would. And all of it. I love that clock, and it is incredibly useful, and I love it. I think it's fantastic. It's incredibly well made. It's from the 70s and it's still ticking and it's still doing great. So yeah, I love it. I think it's fantastic. But that's not like integral, I would say, to my whole planning process, but it does pop up more than I thought, and I just love it. I think it's darling. It's fantastic. I do subscribe to the Old Farmer's Almanac emails. In that email you'll have the best days to do things, and that's good to see too. I also like the Plant Cunning channel and Instagram page. Isaac at Plant Cunning does a fantastic job of doing the weekly zodiac gardening shorts and reels. I think those are great. He just goes through and fairly general. He's not focusing on any one area. Again, this is the planetary part of planting. He does a fantastic breakdown of what the week is going to look like way heavier than almanac and all of that. He's talking like, we're in tropical Pisces and we're in this and we're in that. He's getting into really deep stuff, and I love it. Even if it's something that I don't necessarily understand intuitively yet, I do appreciate every now and then getting slammed into some real knowledge that I need to brush up on. So I really appreciate that, and it's good for planning the week. They don't do it every week. I'm sure they're very, very busy, especially now, but that's always nice to see and to watch. I think it's nice. And so those are my resources that I use for moon gardening, planetary planting, whatever you want to call it, old time gardening. And so far I'm really enjoying it, and I think I actually am seeing results in the garden. I've had just now, today actually, the biggest corn harvest ever. I'm finally, even after one attempt already this year and multiple attempts in previous years, I'm finally getting sweet corn on my sweet corn plants, and they're looking good so far. Fingers crossed. I'm really excited. Now, is that all on the Planetary planting? Probably not. I've been really building that soil up and using lots of compost teas and really good fertilizers and things like that. So, you know, there were going to be some results eventually, as long as I didn't give up. I'd also like to say or think that the Planetary moon astrological gardening is helping, even if it's just with me being delighted to go into the garden to focus on a singular task, and I'm doing that task particularly well, and then I'm doing the next task for the month particularly well, and all that. It's just helping my game. I think that's much better than what it was. It's really nice that I'm able to structure my time and use it well. And I think this way of gardening has really helped with that. That's all I have to say for that. If you have any questions, please leave me a comment. I'm more than happy to answer your questions, even if it's with an I don't know. And that'll probably be the case. So thank you for watching, and thank you for lending me your time. It's priceless. And you have a good day. Bye.